My first guest today is local archivist Nathan Gonzalez. Since 2013, he's been the archivist and head of special collections at A.K. Smiley Public Library and curator of the Redlands Lincoln Memorial Shrine, as well as the Redlands Historical Museum. From 2008 to 2014, he was the University of Redlands visiting archivist, and he remains an adjunct faculty member to this day. Having co-authored multiple books about the history of Redlands, it's a pleasure to have him on the program. Nathan Gonzalez, welcome to Inside the Studio.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
The pleasure's all mine. What led you to become an archivist?
I had no idea what an archivist was when I was in high school or even the first several years of college until I was working on a graduate paper for my thesis as an undergraduate. And I worked with research in an archives because my undergraduate major was history. And I thought I was going to go into museum work, and I was also dreading going into the real world. So I thought about, well, graduate school sounds like a really good way to avoid the real world, and I looked for programs that didn't require teaching as the end result. So I found a program at University of California, Riverside that was what they called Program in Historic Resources Management that dealt with things like museums. I thought, museum curator, that sounds like an awesome thing to be. So I was going to go to this program. Well, turns out I get to UCR for this MA program, and they weren't even offering the museum stuff that quarter. So I had to come up with something else, and there was this thing called archives, and I thought, well, I guess I'll take that class since I'm here. And enrolled in the course. It was my very first class as a graduate student, and in walks Larry Burgess, who was an alumnus of this institution and been a member of the Board of Trustees off and on for many years, and he's on the graduate faculty at UC Riverside, and that was my very first class there, and the rest at that point was history.
Absolutely. No pun intended,
No.
Of course. Now, that sparked a whole relationship with Larry Burgess. You've actually written some books with him. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, I had been to Redlands once in the late 1980s. I was at a conference that was here on campus. That was the only time I'd ever really heard of Redlands until I was in graduate school. And Larry lured me over to look at some project at Smiley Library. And I thought, Smiley Library, that's a silly sounding name for a library. Why would you call something Smiley? Until I realized the people who were involved. And so that's an entirely different story. Anyway, I came over to Redlands, and he took me to lunch at the Tartan. And I did some work then at Smiley for some graduate credit. And toward the end of my second year, he said, you know, we've got this part-time job at Smiley Library. Why don't you apply for it? And I applied, and 17 years later, I'm here. So that was kind of the beginning of the relationship. I had a relationship with him as he was director before I ever started here, and the collaborations have worked very, very well over the years.
So what does your job entail now at the library?
I'm one of these really fortunate people who's actually doing something that they love to do. So fortunately, no 2 days are the same. But on the whole, what we do in the Special Collections Division is serve as stewards of historical materials and memory for the community of Redlands, the East San Bernardino Valley, and to some extent all of Southern California. And then, of course, we also operate this Lincoln and Civil War Museum, which is the only thing like it west of the Mississippi River. And so we deal with all of those collections as well. So in a day, I might meet with someone who has important historical materials that they're looking to place somewhere so that we can preserve them for the future for researchers. I might meet with students who are working on research projects, either about something on the Civil War, or I might have someone come in who's looking to learn more about their house, and we have a lot of records about that, or they're interested in photography or any of a number of different research opportunities that exist. So I'd meet with researchers, or we do other kinds of programmatic activities to bring people to the institutions. We do exhibit design and creation. It's a lot of different stuff with a very small but committed staff.
It's interesting that there's a Lincoln Memorial Shrine in Redlands. Tell me about how and when the city started embracing this culture of celebrating Abraham Lincoln.
Well, as with so many things, it starts with one person's idea and passion. And the Lincoln Shrine came about because Robert Watchorn, who had come to the United States from England at 18 years old and worked in coal mines in Pennsylvania and eventually really made something of himself. And by the time he came to California, he was a very wealthy man and married, and toward the end of his life, they had lost a son after the First World War, but ended up in Redlands to spend their winters. And he saw in Lincoln's story a story similar to his own, of beginning with nothing and rising to a great position within the country, and really living the American dream. They might have called it something about the American right to rise in those days. So he loved Lincoln and collected Lincoln and decided that there needed to be something honoring Lincoln in the West. And he decided Redlands is a pretty good place for that to be. One day, Southern California will all be one big metropolis, and this would be a great place for that. And of course, this is the same Robert Watchorn whose estate gifted Watchorn Hall here on the university campus. So that was in 1932 that the Lincoln Shrine was completed.
Wow. That's amazing that his legacy is impacting students and the community 90 years later. That's incredible. We had Dr. Ed Ayers on the program recently, and he spoke at the annual Lincoln Dinner here on campus. And in fact, you were in charge of putting that whole event together. And it was an incredible job that you did because of the Civil War reenactors that you got to play music during the event. It was incredible. Tell me more about how you landed that job and how you thought the dinner went.
Well, the Lincoln Dinner has been going on since 1932. It was a tradition that Watchorn started, and we've been coordinating it through special collections since the 1970s. Obviously, I wasn't there, but been doing that. And had all kinds of great scholars come out in each year to deliver addresses so that we can learn something about the history of Lincoln. And we were really fortunate this year to be able to partner with the university to bring Ed Ayers out for the dinner, because Dr. Kuntzel wanted to bring him in as a university distinguished fellow, and we were able to coordinate that so that it would happen over Lincoln's birthday, which is February 12th. And at the same time, he was going to be able to be on campus and meet with student groups and gives a couple of talks in town, and it worked out amazingly well for us. And I like to think that I'm a smart person occasionally, and then I meet people like Ed Ayers, and I realize how little I know. that he's forgotten more than I will ever learn. But absolutely an incredible person, and it was an invigorating and fascinating talk that he gave to the almost 400 people who were in Orton Center that night.
It was packed.
Yeah.
It was great, though. I really enjoyed it, and you must be so proud of the work that you did and how it turned out.
Absolutely. It takes a lot of people to make an event like that come together, and it was, our staff, our partnership with our volunteers, and our partnership with the university that made it all happen.
And you did a good job singing.
Oh, thank you.
So let's go on to historic preservations. It's safe to say that you have a portfolio in historic preservations, and let's talk about the new Starbucks in town. What's going on with that?
Okay, so here's the very brief background.
Okay.
I sit by city ordinance on the city's Historic and Scenic Preservation Commission. I'm the only person that's not appointed by the council. And so different projects that come up through the city development process sometimes get vetted through that. So if it's a designated historic resource, something that's already been recognized as historic, and there's major changes that are going to happen, it goes to the commission. If it's not designated, but if it's a property that's 50 years or older, and they're looking for a demolition, then it also comes to the commission. Well, it happens that a developer had bought a property in town that was created as a baker's burger stand in the early 1960s, and they were going to tear it down and build a new Starbucks on the site. And because it was a demolition, it came to the Historic Commission, and I looked at the property and I said, wait a minute, this actually has some historic significance. And so I brought some information to the commission, and other commissioners agreed, and we worked with city staff to work with the developer, who ended up completely changing their plans in consultation with Starbucks, and they managed to save the entire look and feel of the original early 1960s drive-up hamburger stand as a brand new Starbucks, and it's absolutely stunning.
That's incredible. I haven't had a chance to see it, but
it even has a drive-through.
It's a drive-through Starbucks.
Yep.
And the sign, I've heard a lot about the sign itself, and
It's this fantastic neon Starbucks sign. Starbucks even went in to use some of their earlier branding to make it fit with the building. So it's absolutely unique. And we have the most awesome Starbucks in California, right here in Redlands, California.
That's incredible. Well, thank you very much, and thank you for being on the program. We really appreciate you being here.
It's a privilege. Thank you.
And more inside the studio in a moment.